Hi there, thanks very much for joining me. I'm Dean, this is Woodwork Journey, and today we're going to be talking about what I've done with my MFT so far and what I've still got to do, just doing a couple more things to it before we can kick off. I've learned some stuff, I've made some mistakes, and I'm hoping that I can show you that before you make your own, or at least so you're aware of things beforehand. Let's get into it. As I said in the intro, I'm going to take you through how I built this so far, exactly what I've got left to do, the mistakes that I've made, and hopefully some hints and tips for you along the way. But let me show you what we're looking at with this MFT style top to start with, and then I can tell you how I did it and what I've still got to do. If you saw my Tablesaw to Tracksaw video, then you would have seen the early kind of incarnations of this, I believe. If not, I'll leave a link to it up in the corner there and in the description, so you can always check it out after if you want to. But this essentially is my removable MFT area. So I do have to open this door. Am I going to hit the tripod? Yes, but this whole section removes, and the idea being that I can take this out, make another one that's a router table, so I can pop that in there, and I think I'm going to make another one for the micro jig system as well, because I think it would be interesting to compare the micro jig aspect of this to the regular dog hole side of things, because I think there are a couple of things off the top of my head that mean that one way is more advantageous than the other, but we'll get into it. So obviously you can see here that I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows going up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going across, and we have got a couple of extra holes going on here, which I will discuss in a little while. But the way I made them was with these story sticks. There are plenty of systems available, UJK and so on, that will allow you to mark out these holes and mark them out accurately. Now you can buy the whole thing if you want it sort of CNC machined. There's a number of people offering that online at the moment, but I wanted to make my own so I could find out how hard it was. Plus, I don't have much money. So what I needed to do was figure out a way that I could mark these out and be as accurate as humanly possible. So for that, what I did was I got these pieces of wood. I've got 2 of them right here. Now, these are drilled through so the center is every 100 mil. When I made them, I cut the 2 pieces of wood, and I put one on top of the other, like that. Then I drilled through using a drill press to make sure that it was vertical, and that gave me the spacing for the initial holes. What I then did was, you might just be able to see there, is use bits of stainless steel straws, drinking straws, that I cut up, and I then popped on the inside of these holes. And what that did was just give it some protection, so once I got them in the right place, I could then drill through these holes without making them bigger and wrecking them, and so I'm losing accuracy. I thought that was quite ingenious. I'm quite proud of myself for that, I'm not going to lie. Now then, what I did is basically I followed the 3, 4, 5 method to create a triangle to make sure that I had everything absolutely correct and spot on for where I wanted it, and that worked out really well. I know Peter Millard has got a really good explanation video of that on his channel. I'll try and remember to link to that down below, but yeah, it just makes life a lot easier. So you can see here, if there was a pin going into that one, 1, 2, 3, and then we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that 3, 4, 5 makes sure that we've got an accurate right angle going up here, and yeah, and then you can just build off of that, really. So once you've done it on that side, then I did it on that side, and then essentially what I did was I just went through each row like so, just to make sure that I got everything in the right place. What I would do is I would put, because the holes are much smaller obviously for this, I'll pop a 5mm drill bit in that end, and then that just allowed me to pop another one in this end, and then just drill through the remaining 3 in the middle. That all worked out really, really well. However, Before I go further, I should say that I spaced these at 100mm apart just because of maths, and it just made life a lot easier. I know that they are meant to be for an MFT like 96mm apart, I believe, between centres, but I don't really see that I'm ever going to afford anything that requires that. So generally, as it's work holding and making sure that things are 90 degrees and so on, I figured 100mm is fine. When it came to making these 20mm holes, I did go for 20mm just because I'm in the UK, and 20mm, once again, nice easy number, lots of stuff you can get for them, and jobs are good. So to make the holes, I could drill them or I could use my router. At that point, I didn't have a router I was able to use to do this, so I didn't have a sort of a template or anything like that, and I didn't want to make one. So what I did was I used a drill. Now, the bit that I used was one of these auger bits, which is absolutely fantastic. It's a beast and will very, very easily make sure that you've got whatever you drill you use in sort of in the first gear, in the real torquey gear, and this will go through anything. I've used this on my workbench, I've used this on the melamine coated MDF, I've used it on plywood, I've used it on everything, hardwood, softwood, everything, and it's an animal and it will go through, but it's not overly tidy. So I did have to go around the tops with a router that I could use for this little job, just a little katsu at the time, just to chamfer out those edges. Now then, the problem arose when it came to getting this in. Now, innuendo aside, trying to get this in dead vertical is really, really difficult. This is only 18mm, so it needed to be sort of, I thought it was going to be a lot easier than it was. I tried to hold kind of levels up. I tried to make a drilling guide, tried to do a whole bunch of things, but a number of these holes are not directly 90 degrees. Now, even though that's going in there like so, you can see that there is a bit of wobble in there, and that means that we have got a little bit of off-axis action going on. You can see here, especially if I zoom in, hopefully, that this is not directly 90 degrees to the table. Obviously, I have checked this square. It is square, so we know that this is the way it should be. But this bench dog is not directly 90 degrees to the table, which is not problematic right at the base there, but when it comes to using things like these Dave Stanton dog locks that are available from SP Wood Creations, I'll make sure that I leave a link down below. You can see that the dog locks are actually higher up the dog. So the more of an angle this goes, the more out that this measurement is going to be. And the further out these measurements are going to be, the higher they go up the dogs, the more the whole track is going to twist. So when you've got some wood going up against a fence or something that's directly flat there, if this is twisted, that's not going to be a 90-degree cut going directly across that fence, which is going to be problematic when you're trying to make things that need any level of accuracy. So just a small amount of wobble or a small amount of off-centerness when I drill these holes means that when I'm using things like these much higher dog locks, it's much more problematic because it can really skew the track. If you do want these though, I will make sure that I leave a link down below. Thank you very much to Stu at SP Wood Creations for sending these on. I really do appreciate it. So how do you go about fixing it? Well, you can buy some sort of power drill or hand drill guides with springs and things on them to make sure that you're as vertical as you can be. That's great. I couldn't afford to buy one of those, but I've never used one, so I don't know if they're any good or not, but it seems like a solid idea. I did try making sort of an equivalent runner in a Jimmy DeResta style for one of my drills, and it kind of worked and then really didn't. So yeah, that was a bit up in the air. But yeah, so trying one of those. If you've got a long throat on your pillar drill, if you've got one, then you could do that. But otherwise, you might have to go about things in a similar way to the way I'm going to be doing, which I'll show you in a second. But as well as the dogs, we've also got this piece. So what is this piece? Well, I've actually cut out some thin pieces of like hardboard or whatever it is, MDF rather, and that is going to sit along there. So I'm going to be using the router just to route out a section on the inside of that. That's going to allow me to pop this inside, and that's going to be my spoil board. So when my track is attached to the dogs that are here and here, then this is going to be where the blade is going to run. And so rather than wrecking my MDF, it's going to wreck this, and then when it's lived out its life, we can get that out and then pop another one back in there. I've cut 3 of these, so that should last me a fair while, hopefully. So what I've got going on here as well is this is a bit of aluminium profile. This only came from a horribly expensive camera slider that I bought many years ago. Realised it was just aluminium extrusion, and it had a gantry rail on it. So I've taken that apart so I can use this possibly as some kind of fence system going on at the top or the bottom. And what I might also do is I'll buy some more of this stuff, but the larger, this is 2040, I want the larger 2060. I'll get some from Ooze Nest as well as a gantry plate, and might be able to make some kind of removable pull-up kind of rail hinge situation that works at the front of the table rather than the normal back of the table. But we'll worry about that later. Anyway, let's just get this sorted out so we can get the strip in, and there we go. Now what I'm putting on here is I'm putting in a combination spiral bit, so in theory it shouldn't upset the MDF or the melamine on top of the MDF too much. So the combination up and down bit means that we've got the fluting running one way and the other on this, so hopefully it's going to give me that clean cut, but we'll have to see what happens. It is quite an old bit. To get the depth right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have everything nice and flat. I'm going to have it overhanging and then just let the bit drop down to the base and lock it in. Okay, this is where one of those whizzy dog hole ratchet clamps would come in useful. I might have to make like a cam lock version or something like that so I can hold things in. I've got 2 dogs there, 1 dog there, so it can't go that way and it can't go that way. Obviously we've got to get the battery on, get my dust collection on, and that's how it turned out, which I think is pretty damn good, really. Now the problem is I've had to take quite a deep cut with this one, because the problem with the spiral bit is unless you hit the spiral and if you're just going on the end bit, then you're not getting the benefits of it. Now if I go higher, there's a chance that it might break out. In fact, let's give it a test. So it came out surprisingly well, actually. This is the one that I just cut, and it also is very clean. So in fact, that's what I can do, which is safer and better anyway. So job's a good one. Now, I was going to put some straight edges on here, but I realised that I 3D printed this. What is it, you may say? Well, you attach the router to the top of this, and then this will run along the Makita rail. Oh! Okay, that came out pretty darn well. I'm pretty happy with that, to be fair. Well, I've managed to do a pretty horrible job of that, which you'll see in a moment. But yeah, I managed to not cut straight at all. It's not really a great shock to anyone that's been watching the channel for more than 5 minutes, but you know, just going to use a bit of the abrasive Smurdex just to 240, just to sort of smooth that out a little bit. At the end of the day, I know what I did wrong, so it'll be a case that next time I do it, when I haven't got any mistakes with the holes in the thing, then I will do it properly. But yeah, that's that in there. Bit holy, but yeah, job done. I might put a bit of double-sided tape under there because friction fit is not going to happen. Let me show you why. See, this end, other than a couple of bits here, doesn't look too bad. But then when I go up, that's quite spacey. That's quite the gap going on there. But never mind. I mean, it doesn't move when I'm sort of fudging it with my fingers. But yeah, just for safety, I might pop a bit of tape on there as well. Okay, so this is how I think it's going to be working. I've just popped a couple of dogs on here for a little bit extra height, although it's not really necessary thinking about it. But what I can do, if I pop dogs there and there, like that, and I want to cut a straight line from here, or a 90 degree. No, that's not going to work. Up that top one, like that. So I want to cut this section off of here. I can butt that up against these two jobbies going on right there. I can then pop my track on my Dave Stanton dog locks that are available from SP Wood Creations. We can then, that unfortunately, oh no, I've got that in the wrong hole. There we go. Loosen this one up, so that goes in there. Now that track isn't going side to side anywhere, that's nice and solid. If this is butted up against the two dogs that are there and there, then we should get an exactly 90 degree angle. Well, a problem that I have there is my saw wants to plunge and the motor hits this. So I'm wondering if we pop this upside down, if that will, it won't let me grasp it. But I can push it up enough for that to be able to grasp that there and that there. Right, straight up. We were cutting into this. I could reduce the cut a tiny bit more. Take that off. Take that off. Square there. But the important one is if it's going to be square right there. And let me show you how that came out. There you go. That's the cut. No evidence of light poking through, and I've got quite the light source behind it. But yeah, so that is how that works out. Well, it's going to be a long time getting used to what I'm doing with an MFT table and with the Tracksaw, but everything's worked out fine. The spoil board has been cut down pretty much the middle of it, which is what it's there for, so that's great. We've got a 90 degree angle by going up against these two top dogs up there. So yeah, this is a very different process to using a table saw, obviously, but the whole setup and the whole kit and caboodle is a lot more. I'm making it look a lot harder than it is, but there is a lot more fanning around involved when you're a newbie like I am to using this whole kind of Tracksaw MFT setup. And if you want to see someone proper use it, then go and check out the 10-minute workshop video, because Peter doesn't have any issue whatsoever. So, you know, he has been doing it a million years, so I'm only just getting into this. Excuse me, a bit of windy pops. I'm only just getting into this, so yeah, it's going to take me time to get used to this new way of working. But, you know, I'm pleased that I've got the basics there now, and so hopefully we'll actually be able to get on to doing some actual woodwork soon. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? But yeah, I've got the router table to do on here, and then possibly the micro jig system, and then yeah, we'll be back to box making and God knows what else in the coming months. Very exciting times. I still don't really know what I'm doing. If you've got any tips or tricks, especially when it comes to the motor hitting the dog at the bottom, I think the only chance is going to be having a rail hinge, which I'm like I said earlier on, I'm thinking about making for the front of the table, because if it's the back, it could be problematic with my workbench. But I know Bish Bash Bosh did a fantastic build, so yeah. go and check that out. Right, that's it. I'll try and leave links to everything I've mentioned down below, but thank you so much for sticking with me. This is a really exciting journey, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Thanks very much, and I'll speak to you very, very soon. Bye-bye.